What can we do to counter involuntary behaviors? How's everyone doing today? Welcome to my channel. I'm Thomas, and I do all kinds of different educational videos here on this channel, from math and quantum arithmetic, sacred geometry, reciprocal physics and chemistry, reciprocal economics, and diet, nutrition, and fitness, and some history, and many other topics that we'll get into before too long. Right now, we've kind of been doing a unit on the tree of life. The tree of life is an ancient diagram. It goes back at least as far as ancient Egypt, and I guess it probably has many, many different uses, and some of them are evil, but you can use it to defend yourself from that evil, but even more, you can use it in order to kind of organize your own life, and especially to organize your conscious aspects of your life, your education, the things that you're learning, and to be able to, and so that's kind of why I teach the tree of life to start all this, because if we can learn the tree of life, then we will have a vessel in order to store more effectively all of the other material that will be coming up in this course or on this channel. So this is the tree of life right here. Probably most of the ancient models didn't have all the colors and everything, but it's the basic diagram where you have 10 different circles, and they're connected by 22 different lines. It's a little bit hard to see this line here, but all of these different circles are connected in various ways. Then there's also the spheres are numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then there's a thing here called the abyss. And then there is a thing above the tree called the zero. So that is a total of 12 different categories. And those 12 different categories more or less correspond to our 12 different faculties of consciousness, or abilities of consciousness, or modes of consciousness. And they break down thusly. The 10th sphere is really our survival, our instinct. This is our, law of the jungle, fight or flight response. This also has to do with the defilements of the body and the lusts of the body and the care of the body. And this is, the 10th sphere is open when we're born. Okay, so we start with this going. The rest of the spheres we have to open up as we move up the tree. So we move up the tree to the 9th sphere, and we begin to open this, shortly after birth, especially for the first 5 years of our lives. And the 9th sphere has to do with, heightened receptivity and intense learning, because we are, at this point in our life, we're like a sponge. We're soaking everything up from our environment. We're amazed at how things happen, and we're just kind of looking at them, and everything is new. And we have caregivers in the home, and we're watching their behaviors, and we try to copy them. And by copying them requires a long period of trial and error, to try to do it right. And we fail and we fail and we fail, but we keep trying. And eventually we learn to kind of master the behaviors that our caregivers were evincing. And then, then we learn another behavior. So it's a process of learning through receptivity, and then imitation and practice. Then the 8th sphere is similar, but where the 9th sphere is about the domestic sphere. The asphere is about the public sphere. So when we go out, we go into school in particular, and church, then we learn again. We're learning what we're supposed to believe in. We're learning how we're supposed to behave. These are all determined and decreed by the experts, the establishment, the institutions. They tell us the way that we're supposed to behave, and to the extent that we do that, we fit in. To the extent that we don't do that, we get shunned. And so, a lot of times it forces kind of an ambivalent situation where you're because the asphere is a trickster. It tells you what you're supposed to believe and how you're supposed to act, but those things are not necessarily true. They are just convenient for this group here. The institutions want you to behave that way because that way you're more easily manageable, or any other kind of reason that they have that will justify their goals. They have certain goals, and they're trying to manipulate you into behaving in a certain way for them to achieve their goals. But those goals and those behaviors are not necessarily the truth. And so we end up getting kind of ambivalent because we buy into we realize that we have to give a certain amount of compliance to their mandates, or else we're going to be totally shunned out of society. But at the same time, we recognize that the things that they're making us believe in do not jibe with our own personal experience. And so we get a little bit torn. Those of us who are torn enough wander over here to the seventh sphere, where the eighth sphere is about the real world. The seventh sphere is about the imaginary world. So this is maybe more idealistic, but it's for people who are who imagine a better alternative than what's being offered here, a better establishment, a better institutions. And they use that imaginative faculty of the seventh sphere, along with other seventh sphere qualities such as inspiration, intuition, creativity, our pleasure principle, being able to organize things into pleasing, harmonious wholes, in order to create artifacts that are going to provide alternatives for the eighth sphere. So you may write a song, or paint a picture, or take a picture, or invent a machine, or invent a system, intellectual property that attempts to improve upon this. Okay, then moving on from the seventh sphere, you get to the sixth sphere. And the sixth sphere is our free will faculty. Free will boils down to our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. And so we find ourselves really always located here at the sixth sphere. But our attention is always directed down the tree. So even, at the time we're born, it's directed at the 10th sphere, then eventually at the 9th and at the 8th. So we're comfortable paying attention to these spheres here because this is how we grew up. But at the sixth sphere, we tap into the other aspect of free will, which is our ability to make decisions. And so here we choose to make the decision to avert our attention away from these lower spheres and to point our attention toward the higher aspects of the tree. And so that's how we end up kind of breaking free of this matrix here and becoming more spiritual by pointing at the spiritual aspects of ourselves, even though these aspects to a large extent have not been accessed or not been opened. Maybe a glimmer, maybe a couple events in our lives have have had us up there, but it's mostly unknown territory. And that's why the sixth sphere requires us to face our fears, because anytime you're looking into the unknown, there's a certain element of fear, especially when you're used to looking right into your comfort zone. You're used to paying attention to your comfort zone, and now you're paying attention to the unknown. But if we start by paying attention to the fifth sphere, we can get some clarity right away, because the fifth sphere is our sense of justice, or karma. So our karma is, as you sow, so shall you reap. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What comes around goes around, and we use those in order to basically get feedback on our actions. So karma evaluates our actions based on violence, waste, and violation. How violent are you? How much are you wasting? And how much are you violating other people? And so when we act, we get reaction back to us. And so our karma, if we act violently, our karma comes back as violence. And so we can gradually tune in to a more nonviolent way of living and a more non-wasteful way of living by paying attention to the feedback we're getting. And we can say, oh, well, that wasn't a good result. My actions maybe were too violent. And as we see in our society, much of the violence that we commit is actually what you would call remote violence or hidden violence, where we don't really think of it as violence, because most of the violence has been sanitized. You can think of it in terms of, maybe like, the De Beers company giving you these very sentimental commercials about diamonds, and that they're, the way that you show love to your partner, and that you get engaged by giving them a diamond ring. But they're not telling you that, all these diamonds are being mined by slaves or little kids who are being enslaved, in these diamond mines in Africa or whatever. That's just one of many examples. But so the main point is that the violence is being hidden from you. But if you're paying attention to your karma, it's not being hidden from the karma. So if you're paying attention, you will eventually figure out, these behaviors that I thought were, harmless, maybe aren't so harmless. Okay, then the fourth sphere is the counterpart for the fifth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the law. The fourth sphere is about the articulation of the law. And so this is usually in a cosmology or a holy book, or a theory of everything that purports to talk about how everything is all fits together. And this is obtained through long periods of investigation and observation. It's not like the eighth sphere is just by decree and by convenience. But the fourth sphere is determined by objective, discovery. And it's not always right, but it is self-correcting. So when there are anomalies, when there are new discoveries that clash with the cosmology, then the cosmology needs to be updated. Okay, then it's also having to do with universal law, universal language, and universal love. So universals are things that we kind of feel inside of us. We can intuit these things. And we don't need to really have formal schooling for them. Okay, then the abyss is about our psychic powers. This is an magnetic area. And the psychic powers are particularly our ability to tune into and recognize omens, and then our ability to act upon omens. There are also some higher psychic powers, or so-called higher psychic powers, that are more powerful, but they're not on the main line of our path. They are kind of byproducts of our path, but sometimes they're so powerful that they can distract us and make us think that they are the path, and make us think that we're further along on the path than we are. And so they need to be handled with care. Okay, then the 3, 2, and 1 at the top of the tree are our divine faculties within. Omnipotence, all-powerful, tapped into through sound and synchronizing sound. And then the second sphere is omniscience, all-knowing or wisdom, that can be tapped into through really coherent light or inner vision. And then the first sphere we tap into through getting very, very, very still. And this is our unifying factor, that is at our deepest core, our deepest center, that we have a divine spark within us, just a little God particle or singularity. And that God particle is exactly the same as the God particle inside everybody else. And so it unifies us. And then the 0 above the tree corresponds to the mystery and the nothingness of the universe, or because there is no 0 in the universe, the 0 is outside the universe. And that's interesting in terms of math, because there is no 0, but math was able to actually take off because of using the 0. Back in the day, but so the 0 is really the part of the creator, is part of the creator, but is not part of the universe. And so it's something that we only can get indirect access to. And we do that again through getting incredibly still. Okay, and now that's the beginner's aspect for the tree. Now, in order to go a little bit more advanced, what I did is I took the whole tree and I applied it to each one of the spheres. So I basically fractalized it, took the whole tree and applied the whole tree to each one of the spheres. So I put a tree on here, put a tree on here, put a tree on here. So, I'm taking the first sphere and I'm breaking it down, or the second sphere, and I'm breaking it down into its 12 component parts. Take the first sphere and break it down into its 12 component parts, and breaking down the 0 to its 12 component parts. So that leaves me with a total of 144 different mini faculties of consciousness, or what I refer to as stages of life. Stages of history, but those stages are not historical or chronological, but they are dramatic stages. And I've compiled all of those stages into a list that I would love to share with you. It would really help you as you get through, as you go through all the videos that I make, just as a point of reference and compare and contrast, and just to have the whole list in front of you, because I only go through one of those 144 per day. So, and I'm not going through them in order at this point. So it can be kind of confusing jumping all over the place. But if you have the list, it makes it easy. To get the list, you just click the link in the description and I'll send it out to you for free. Okay, now today, of the 144 fractal faculties, we're looking at number 21. And number 21 is located in the 9th sphere. and it is the third fractal of the night sphere. Okay, so the night sphere is about learning. Another thing about the night sphere is it's about trance, state of trance. That's really this highly receptive learning state is really one of the states of trance that we can get into. And trance is, just like the word, is a transition from kind of one state of consciousness to another. And you find yourself in a state of trance. And so the night sphere is the heightened receptivity, but it's totally blind, and it has to do with trial and error, and has to do with learning and imitation. And then the third sphere is omnipotence, all powerful, and we tapped into this through sound and through rhythm, synchronized sound. Okay, so those are the aspects that are going into this number 21. And the question was, what can we do to counter involuntary behaviors? Number 21 is called recapitulation. Stage number 21 is about doing deep psychological work to uncover all of the past events that are restricting us from having full agency in our lives. Look to childhood trauma to identify the sources of our involuntary muscle contractions, our doyles. A simple example is an intense food dislike. The histrionic Mr. Yuck face we make when recalling the liver or asparagus that we were force-fed by our parents. This Mr. Yuck face or other overreactive gestures never left us after the trigger left us traumatized at a young age. Memory of the gesture's origin was buried over time after the event, after the trauma. So now it is involuntary. To solve this, we need deep self-analysis. For self-detraumatization, we must bring ourselves back to that traumatic childhood moment. But now, in adulthood, we have more wherewithal to process that memory in a way that makes sense, a conceptual memory as opposed to an associational memory. To start, remember and relive the earliest times we manifested each specific behavior. Take our time and use a pen and paper, not a computer, to write all of our energetic interactions in our whole life, and then all interactions with each person. A difficult task, but needed to dredge up long buried events that are unknowingly affecting us. The list enables us to analyze all energetic interactions we've had with everyone ever. First, we go through the list combined with rhythmic breathing to flashback, way back. Going through the list, we will eventually trigger the right context. Go back in time and ask, am I experiencing this doyle? Am I experiencing this involuntary muscle contraction? If yes, go further back and ask again until you get the no answer. Then when you get the no answer, you ask, what was causing this doyle, this involuntary muscle contraction? We find ourselves reliving those primitive memories. They are coming back whole from being swept under the rug, from where they were festering, from where they were honeycombed in our fractured personalities. Regression sessions, to go back, way back, to when we were not experiencing this involuntary muscle contraction. This puts the previously unresolved event back into our experience so that we live it again and therefore remember it. But now, unlike at the time of the event, we have a fully developed conceptual memory rather than just pure association of the amygdala. As a result, the event can be placed into our conceptual memory for proper filing and storage, for resolution, digesting, sorting, and turning it into bits or concepts. The event that had been stored in our amygdala is now in our conceptual memory and can be dropped from the amygdala, getting rid of the involuntary muscle contraction. Recapitulation reshapes our behavior and beliefs. Success in recapitulation frees up a lot of energy. Recapitulation est très difficile, but it works for de-traumatizing our memory, for defractionating the psyche, and for integrating alter personalities. It helps make us whole again and helps us regain agency. Okay, that's number 21, recapitulation, the third fractal of the night sphere. A lot of that material is coming from the Carlos Castaneda books. I'm not sure which one or which ones, but Castaneda goes through that recapitulation process in detail. Also from Doyaletics, from this guy Doyle, I think his name is Doyle Henderson. But he has this science called Doyaletics, which is about the same thing, being able to deal with your involuntary muscle movements by going back in time, regressing yourself, and reliving those. And then you do this memory switch, and it drops away from your amygdala. And so you regain control over it. Now, putting together that list, in the Castaneda books, it's recommended that you go, you write down every person that you've ever met, and you go through every event with every person that you've ever met. If you don't have time for that, just do the best you can, and you'll probably be able to dredge up some of those different events, and you'll be able to work with some of the involuntary muscle contractions that you might find that you have. The food dislike is just one minor example of that, but there are many others that may be more crucial to your behavior that are also involuntary. So if you want to get your energy freed up and you want to maintain more agency in your life, the recapitulation is recommended. Okay, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll be putting another one out there tomorrow. And if you like the video, hit the like button. You can share video with others and subscribe to the channel. I've got that list of 144 fractal faculties that I'm offering for free if you click the link in the description. If you are a generous type and you'd like to donate to the channel, please do so through Cash App or Venmo, which is also listed in the description. Otherwise, have a beautiful day, and tune in tomorrow. Thank you.